As Lexington takes steps to move these two monuments, I spoke to people here in Louisville who are dealing with statue controversies of their own. Watch this.
My feelings are it's all history. At this time, we need to come together as a nation. That is history. We leave history alone. And what I don't understand is now we're going after history, but we haven't done it in the past 25 years. But this time, in the last 7 months, we go after history. And I think it's got a lot to do with President Trump.
Someone's offended by every different type of statue or whatever. I just think it's crazy. It's just crazy. It's part of our history. It should be looked at it that way and not as something bad.
Republican Congressman Thomas Massie has represented Kentucky for almost 5 years, and Sadiqa Reynolds is president and CEO of the Louisville Urban League. Her organization has been working to remove the Confederate monuments from Kentucky. Sadiqa, welcome, first of all, to both of you. It's great to be with you here in Louisville, and thank you for having us. Let me start with you, Sadiqa. You listened to what the people were saying today who I spoke with, and also the Congresswoman who was part of that. Do you understand where they're coming from?
I think that black people have never been guilty of attempting to sanitize history. The reality is that those in the majority, and not even all, but these folks who have erected these statues to celebrate people who were murderers, who were treasonous, who were willing to die in order to save slavery. I mean, if you think about it, we are talking about putting these statues up. It is almost as if we want to do that because they wish that the South had won. They wish that the war had had a different outcome. It makes no sense. And so the idea that we are the ones who are attempting to change history, it is absolutely insane. And the other part of it is you don't have to have a memorial or a statue to be able to teach history. I think history is very important. It's the only way that you keep from making the same mistakes. That being said, we can do that in a school setting, in a museum setting. You don't have to have monuments and Confederate flags to celebrate something that was so damaging. And so the idea that we are really attempting to be inclusive in this country, clearly not. I think people have dehumanized black people and the black experience so much that there is no ability to even see what kind of damage something like this can cause. So it's not about not talking about our history and not talking about what we have lived. We need to, and we want you all to do that. We want all of us to do that together. But to celebrate people who were willing to die to keep an entire people enslaved, no, those statues need to come down.
It's a very interesting take, Thomas. And, you know, you listen to what Sadiqa says, and, you know, you understand the argument on your side. But then there is this other side of it that, you know, that it was the most divisive battle in our nation's history, that there were young men on both sides who saw it that they were fighting for their state, that they were fighting for the people of their state, and you know they were trying to preserve what they were told was the right thing to try to preserve. Do all those need to come down, and is the manner in which some of these are coming down disturbing to you?
You know, I think vandalism is a very bad thing. I agree with President Trump and Matt Bevin. This is part of our complex and interesting history here in Kentucky, which was a border state in the Civil War.
And a neutral state.
That's right. And so for 150 years, we've had Confederate monuments and Union monuments peacefully coexisting in the state. And as I grew up here in Kentucky, you know, looking at those monuments and asking, you know, the adults questions, what happened here? Why are these monuments here? I think it's instructive and an important part of our history, and I would hate to see these monuments all be taken down.
Yeah, I mean, it's this neo-Nazi movement, this crazed movement that has unfortunately adopted this as their cause. So when people see them, these horrific individuals standing next to them and chanting these things that, you know, cut to the core of every one of us when they listen to these words, it's unfortunate for your argument that they have co-opted this fight.
And with all these monuments, Kentucky is one of the most uneducated states in the country. So if we were really about teaching history, why don't we do that? I mean, people can stand beside these monuments in front of them and march and chant about wanting to celebrate the way things used to be, but they don't know their history, even with the monuments there. So, I mean, I think we should be talking more about how we can change our community, our country, how we can bring people together. This doesn't help to do that. It's very divisive.
Let me ask you the question that the president raises
about the history, though.
About George Washington, about Thomas Jefferson. You know, where do you draw the line, Sadiqa?
I don't draw the line. I am not interested in. Listen, I am interested in telling the real story about our history, about the history of this country. But history is
ugly, and some people who did some very good things also did some very bad things.
They were rapists. They were willing to die. You said that they recognized people. They didn't recognize us as human beings. And so those statues still standing. I mean, it is sort of celebrated. It is not sort of. It is absolutely.
So Thomas Jefferson, would you take down the Jefferson Memorial, just for example? And I got to go.
Listen, I don't care. I don't care. You are going to learn history. You are going to learn history whether you have monuments or not. Those monuments are disrespectful, and they need to come down. We are a part of this country, and we deserve to have the respect. When we walk through the street, we should not see monuments like that.
It's a slippery slope, and the question
Slide down.
Where does it end?
It ends with justice. Those monuments, those statues represent the statutes, the policies.
Guys, I got to cut you off. Thank you very much for bringing your viewpoint here tonight. It's good to have both of you here.
Not.
Thank you.